Yeah, there's a new series coming out based on Lincoln?
I actually read about this. They said with the success of Hamilton, they were going to be shooting a theater-style version of the Lincoln memoirs.
They're going to do them all.
Yeah.
Okay. I heard Hamilton wasn't very accurate, though, like historically.
Oh no, this one I hear is supposed to be tremendously accurate. They're using period-appropriate clothing. The guy that's going to be playing Lincoln is his exact height to the hat, and it's going to be shot in front of a live audience.
Just like Lincoln.
All right, guys, here we're going to talk about the movie Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. 2012's Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. Lee, had you seen this one before?
No, because the world ended that year. I didn't see anything.
It was a rough year.
Locked in the bunker, waiting
with
for the
John
end of the
Cusack?
world. Yeah.
Happens.
Outrunning the collapsing road, whatever it was. I only saw the trailer to that movie. I have no idea how the world actually ended.
So this movie, I remember seeing it around the same time as there was another movie called Abraham Lincoln Zombie Hunter. Or
Oh dear.
And in my head, I've mixed parts of the two of them together.
Okay.
And this is the vastly superior. This is the theatrical release movie. That is a B movie, maybe an asylum picture, like rip off to take some of the sweet cashola.
Because there was a trend. I forget if it started with, but Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies, right? Was a thing. There was something happening
that
where
was a thing.
People were like, we gotta do the historical and do a little spin on it, and do something goofy with it, right? That became a thing that happened, and this was one of the products of that.
Yeah. And I think as far as those go, this is probably one of the better ones.
What?
Well, you have like fake Liam Neeson in the role here of Abraham Lincoln.
He is kind of Liam Neeson.
He looks a lot like him, and Liam Neeson was Lincoln. so you're like, oh man, this is some fucking Inception shit.
Gotcha.
And,
he gives off a Lincoln-y vibe, which
does.
I think is perhaps the only requirement for that role. So he nailed it.
Yeah.
In that way.
You've got the Falcon before he was the Falcon.
I know.
That's pretty good.
That's creepy.
You've got Alan Tudyk.
I know.
There's some great characters in this movie.
Yeah.
And I think for how loose the plot is, it's a fun movie.
Wow, interesting. Okay. I figured there'd be things about this that you would have hated.
Oh, there's many things I hate. I'll get into those in spoilers.
Sweet.
But I do think that for just an idiot, this is a fun movie.
I had a vague memory of being like, this is okay, but I'm sure you will hate it. And then you had seen it separately from me, and then you were like, yep, I hate it. And I'm like, okay, we're not going to talk about it. And we haven't spoken about it since then. On like a rewatch now,
Oh, did I hate it when I first watched it?
I believe you did. I believe you did. Okay.
I'll believe it. I have no memory of the first watch other than like, I watched that. So went into this almost blind.
I remembered you complaining about it, but we did not discuss it.
I have complaints.
We did not discuss it on or off camera. On a rewatch, I remember being like, it's not that bad, it's probably good or whatever, and I liked parts of it, and then I feel like something happens, perhaps halfway through this way too long movie.
This is a very long movie. This should have been an hour and 10 minutes.
Yes, something happens that both adds to that length and kind of misuses it, and I feel like it goes downhill.
Like where a second movie starts?
Kind of, and I didn't like that second movie as much as I liked that first movie. But this is all stuff we need to get into in the spoiler section.
Yeah, so if you've seen this, guys, or don't care, false over to spoilers. If not, pull out now.
If you need a place to rent content, you better listen. We're Cannibal Video and we eat the competition.
All right, guys, so here we are for the spoilers on Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. So now that we are in spoilers, I can say the only real problems I have with the movie are like fundamental problems with the movie.
Core issues.
Agreed,
yes.
So like, we're in spoilers, so I have no problems telling you that, so Abraham Lincoln becomes a vampire hunter. He is trained by, spoilers, a vampire, but doesn't know it at the time.
Yes.
And that vampire, in the course of like 4, maybe 5 seconds, kind of teaches him how to be superhuman strength.
It's a montage.
But when you first learn his thing, he's like, chop that tree down in one blow.
And that you failed.
Yes!
To protect her.
Yes!
And that you let her die.
And he's like, can't do it. I'm a bitch. It's impossible. Tell me why you hate this man. And like he's like, the power of truth. That is the power of strength. And does this thing. And you're gonna think that the only reason that any of this is really accepted and like you're like, oh okay, he's training him, is that he does that too, and that's how he was able to like choke slam that vampire through the barn and be a hunter himself.
Right.
But the moment you realize that he's a vampire, which honestly is the moment you first meet him in his house, because he's putting on fucking sunscreen.
I doubt he even knew his target was a vampire.
So immediately I was like, well, he's a vampire.
I just remembered from last time, but yes.
I did not remember from last time. But I'm like, okay, so he's a vampire. So you're like, how did he train him at all? This is not a technique he learned. He doesn't do this. This isn't his thing. He essentially taught him to have vampire strength by power of will.
So this is the part that I have the least problem with, because I realized watching this, and I knew you would have a problem with this, so I came ready.
Please.
This is like a martial arts movie. This is like just the training montage, and then you can do the crazy, because Anthony Mackie's bouncing off shit too. Like,
and no one taught him anything.
No, but like like it's kind of
even
like,
speed
like,
is kind of a
yes.
boss.
I ever see you here again, I will have your balls as a coin purse.
This movie is the best analogy okay, Kung Fu Soccer.
Sure.
It's a movie that the effects are good but bad, and
well, it's a comedy.
And the movie's awesome if you're stoned in like your dorm room, right? But like that's the level to which it like works. If you're like, how are these people? He's just a person though. What's the rules? How many midichlorians do you have? That's gonna ruin everything. Everyone that he knows, everyone he's friends with, just is super strong.
Yeah.
Like it's a legend or a fable or like a martial arts movie where it's like, you know, Goku's wife is also good because like that's why I picked her, because she's so tough or something like that, right? So I've moved on from needing to know you're an alien, you're a Saiyan, you're like a Kryptonian, whatever, or even, you know, you have the blood of the werewolf. I don't need any of that anymore. I'm now like a pure being who just wants to see people bouncing off of stuff.
I think you could have wrote it off though with any explanation at all, and then instead they chose to do nothing. Like at one point, Abe's face gets bashed through a dock.
Yes.
And you're like, he should be dead. That's a killing blow.
So this is one of the first things that happens, and it's the absolute craziest, because it's before the training, which means he's the chosen one, by the way.
Kind of.
But also, because it looks so fucking bad. It's such an awful scene. When he throws the other vampire up the, like, building, and he's, like, breaking the wood on, like, the way up. I was like, oh, this movie does suck. I'm an idiot. Why did I think this movie had any redeemable qualities whatsoever? It was awful.
I was watching that part going like, oh, it's The Covenant.
Yeah, no.
It has the same like visual effect style.
So like, I think there's a few spots where it like works, works. There's a few spots where it works on paper, and yes, I get massive parts of Underworld, parts of Resident Evil in like the good parts, and yes, therefore the bad parts are the yin or yang to that yin, which is the Covenant and all these other things. Are like, ooh, like you didn't have that. You just put it on screen anyway. Scenes end like early, like shots get cut off and. You know, at certain points where you're like, oh, they just gave up. They were like, oh no, we're not gonna show any more of this, we're done. It's super cringe, yes.
In general, his character suffers from the inconsistency of the strength, because if he at all can drive an axe, because it's not a biblical magic axe, it's an axe with a little bit of silver on it. And he can just rip trees down with like one blow, and that same talent that he has doesn't apply to really anything else, because he's sent on like 6 vampire hunting missions before, like, you know, the big grand finale type stuff happens.
Yeah,
and each of those vampires, he is sneaking up on them. They don't know he's coming, and he barely kills them pretty much. And then when it gets to the ending thing, where he's fighting like 50 at once, and they're like Wild Wild West paintings jumping down from the sky.
Oh yeah, that's so crazy. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay, so also this movie is like an After Effects movie.
Kind of.
Big time. Certain things feel like, where does this take place? In that scene you're talking about, which I like, it is like the daytime, and then when he arrives, it like dims and turns blue day for night, and he looks around like, what? Like, it's happening in the world. It's turning blue just so they can fight, and then those paintings come to life, or there's vampires that just chill up there the whole time. It's bananas. But there are some shots, I shouldn't say like whole things in there, when he's twirling the axe and it plays like the dun dun dun, like this where I was like, oh, now we're in like Resident Evil. Now we've like dipped over into like, oh, this is like delicious shit now. This is actually good in a way. Yeah.
I didn't get that whole bit though. Like when he goes there and like all the slaves are in the house, some of them get away. I'm like, what even is this? Like they just bring them all there. Like you think it's gonna be like a trick, like they're gonna be vampires too, or something's gonna happen, or they're like already have turned his friend or something. But really, it's like nothing with no consequences, like just nothing.
Something isn't right about this. Hey.
And like a little bit of a fight scene with a cool like chair flip neck hold, and I was like, that was interesting.
Yeah, that stuff like, oh no,
that shit reminds me of like Charlie's Angels.
Yeah, that goes too far. When it cuts to that awful like wide side shot of the chair flipping action, I'm like, oh no, gang, what are we doing?
And like, is that rehearsed? Because he like throws the chair at her and she catches it and does it. I'm like, that easily could have been like hit her in the air and she just fell.
I was gonna say that's their move. They're like a traveling circus troupe.
I guess
that's what they do to everyone. That scene though ends with Speed. They're
oh
like
my God, Speed, my boy,
showing up like it's Fast and Furious, drifting a horse-drawn carriage to like knock them off of Abe. And that again, I was like, okay, now I'm back. Now I'm back on board.
Well, that's like where the movie should almost end. It should be a chase now, where they're chasing you on that, and you kill them on the road somehow, and it's over. Not a whole nother fucking movie with a time jump. And I'm like, come on.
So this is the issue right here, right? They have escaped. He's like threatened him. The bad vampire said, you should actually kill the good vampire, not the other way around. And Abe's like, oh, don't kill Anthony Mackie, that's bad. And then they get saved. And like they're on the run or something, right? Then there is a time skip of like 20-something years, 30 years? How long? Abe says, I'm as a man of 50, and he's got old makeup on. Anthony Mackie has old makeup on.
But still looks super young in the face. He just has like a little bit gray in his hair.
Yeah, he like grew out his hair a little bit, and they like salted it, and he had the little glasses, and he was like acting like, hello.
But they didn't like apply anything to his cheeks. No. He had like perfect cheeks.
And then Mary Elizabeth Winstead comes in, looking almost exactly the same. She looks older in like certain shots, but I was like, what is going on? What the fuck is happening? And then they cut around to other characters, and you're like, okay, they're all vampires, so they don't age at all. But that doesn't mean like you don't have to hire someone to do the aging makeup, because Abe looks awful. Everyone looks awful who's like been made older by this time skip, and it also happens to ruin the entire movie.
Pretty much. Because up until that point, I was like, okay, this is kind of a fun, dumb movie. Yeah. And there are like fun, dumb things that happen after this, but not that are fun enough to justify them even existing. Like you could have just stopped it and been like, okay, show me one more climactic, cool fight scene on like the road. Like,
if it was just young Abraham Lincoln twirling his axe and killing vampires, I think we could have had a nice little fun time.
That could have been like, we're afraid we won't get approved for a sequel. Fucking put it all in one movie. I don't give a shit. This is my last chance.
That's what they did, right? Yeah. That's like my takeaway too. Yeah, they were just like, well, like, because this was also a book, or what is this? There's something else before this? I feel like some of these things, they were either comics or books or stories or something, and there's a grand like thing. Like, I love alternate histories, right? Yeah. The idea of like, oh, Gettysburg was vampires and we had to get silver to Gettysburg. Yeah. The idea of that is so good.
It gets a bit cringe when you're like, we got Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad to bring the silver.
Right, because earlier when they're working in slavery, it feels okay. It's still like moderately cringe. But at the end there's more than one type of railroad and all that stuff. It's like, holy shit. Like, I love the alternate history so much. I know you do too. Hercules, Briscoe County Jr., whenever any historical figure accidentally invents something from modern times and they make a joke about it, oh, it's so good. Alternate history is amazing.
I didn't write it down. I feel like he said we're 60 miles away from Gettysburg, like the train was, to get that stuff to them.
It's 80 miles from here to Gettysburg. 80 miles will decide whether this nation belongs to the living or the dead.
And I'm like, so are we saying they walked 60 miles carrying thousands of pounds of silver?
The train's en route, and like the people on foot seemingly get there in a comparable amount of time to like save the day. That makes no sense. I'm not here to like defend that or something. No.
I was just making sure that's what happened, because I'm like, that's so dumb. Did that happen?
Yes.
Yeah.
But just to underscore how bad of a choice, how dumb this is, the framing device of the movie is that Abraham Lincoln, as an old man, has given a book explaining his entire life to his young vampire, his old vampire friend, right? Who's now presumably like reading that book, right? Mm-hmm. So you have every excuse in the world to do whatever you want because because now this is 300. At the end, you cut back to that guy reading the book and going, "Oh, Abe," and then something else happening, right? Sure. The idea that you would also do a 30-year time skip to torpedo the momentum of the movie, and then do more action with 50-year-old Abraham Lincoln with the same axe, twirling the same axe.
And you see that he's lost a step because he drops the axe.
They do acknowledge it.
But then there's nothing. I would have liked a cool thing on the roof of the train, especially when him and Mackie were fighting back to back using the same axe. That one throws it to him and he drops it, like something like that. And at some point, he gets an upgrade and his axe becomes a gun and has some cool stuff to it. I'm like, that's pretty cool. I like that.
Yes.
I like when he, as a young man, gets himself drunk and goes to kill the vampire that killed his mom, and the gun just misfires. Yeah. And the vampire's like, "Oh, that was unlucky."
From my mother.
That was unlucky.
Oh yeah. That's,
I like that.
That's some of the best, like him like failing so like epically at his first go around, right? With a vampire who's a shit talker.
Yes.
Who's like outside the door, like taunting him.
Well, that vampire stuff was really, I thought, really good. And but it's also ridiculous, right? He shoots him in the eye, and somehow am I to believe it's a metal replacement eye, or is that the bullet?
That's the bullet.
Is the bullet where the eye goes? It only went 1 inch in.
The bullet is permanently in his eye from now on.
Abraham fucking Lincoln.
He shoots him through the other eye.
Yeah, which is poetry.
What's poetry is the fights in the horse field.
Yes.
They're fighting, literally throwing horses. And this, if ever Abe is a superhero, you're like, at one point he gets hit with a fucking horse.
Bro. So he ends up again kung fu soccer stoned in the dorm room when the vampire throws a horse at him, and then he ends up riding the horse back at the vampire. I was like, oh shit, this is the dumb fun that I want, the dumb action out of Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. Even just having the vampire running fast enough on foot to be like going with the herd, I was like, that's cool, right? However, the horse scene in general looks like such fucking dog shit.
It's such an awkward,
it's so
goofy,
dumb.
weird thing where it's a mix of super unrealistic.
Yes.
And then some parts are the dimensions are too correct or something. It looks extra awkward for whatever reason.
The horses look so fake and bad. The whole scene, the lighting. You mentioned on top of the train too. That's peak. This is After Effects. They're all just in a closet. There's fake wind around them on top of the train. You can see 2 feet in any direction, and everyone's just copied and pasted into the scene. It's such shit. It's so that's. We time skipped 30 years for this. We put old makeup on Abe Lincoln for this, and this is one of the worst action scenes in the movie.
Coolest part about that last action scene is the train itself has these cool metal chains things wrapped around all the entranceways, and I've never seen something like that before. And often stagecoaches get robbed and this and that happens, and I'm like, that would really prevent a lot of problems if all trains had things like that.
Abe kind of falls onto one, and it's like a netting. He's stuck in it and stuff. Yeah.
I like that. There's a great bit before the horse scene when he first goes to run away. He runs away like E.T. running away from the government. He's like, ah! And he runs away.
Oh, the vampire?
Yeah, his arms are up and they're flailing. It's the goofiest shit.
He's a goofy bastard.
He certainly is.
That particular vampire is a goofy bastard.
Yeah. So Alan Tudyk is in this. Alan Tudyk is.
I
is
didn't
like,
recognize.
I was gonna say he's
okay.
almost unrecognizable because
So-
they made him look like a doll.
I also checked like the credits. I
Mm-hmm.
thought looking for his name, but I didn't click like more people because I thought he ended up being that like senator guy or whatever. But he's someone else.
He's the guy I don't know what his title was. Maybe it was senator.
Yeah.
That's originally dating his wife.
Oh, okay. Oh, I don't know then. That's weird. Okay, I'm not sure. But I remember going, it's Alan Tudyk, and then I go like, wait, no, it's not. IMDb says something different. But if not, a dead ringer for Alan Tudyk.
That's him.
I'm sure.
But yes, he looks like goofy. Like they
Yes.
like plastertined his like face or something. Like he looks like a fake like doll.
Maybe
like he's China.
Maybe he's CG.
He might be.
I say that if the people of this great nation want slavery, then let them have it.
More stuff that I liked. I actually liked some of these early fights that were not. So like in between the horrible horses and the horrible dock fight, there's one or two things that I actually liked. I feel kind of bad for liking them.
What's that?
There's a part of the training montage where Henry, whatever his name is, throws the axe to Abe and he catches and spins and twirls and splits a log. And I just want like an animated gif of that. I'm like, that makes me happy for some reason to see that because I'm an idiot, I guess, whatever.
I like axe fighting in general. Ever since
yeah.
you saw Christopher Walken do it in Sleepy Hollow with like one axe, one sword. I'm like, that's a cool ass thing.
Yeah, just something about the way it felt. Like I think some of the action works, and maybe they just didn't have enough time or money to do the other action good or something. But my favorite action scene probably, unless I've said something else to the contrary, is the flashback.
Okay.
When you figure out how that dude became a vampire
yes.
and all that stuff. Because you get to see like every power on display. All right.
Yeah.
And
he's a boss.
And he's a boss. So like a vampire disappears to kind of like do its teleporting thing again, and he has just like a little dagger, and then he like tussles with one, and he does the knife trick where you drop it and catch it again.
I have a note that says, "Who did it better, him or Arya Stark?"
Okay, well, Arya Stark stole it from that movie with Benicio del Toro and what's his name, where they make Hunted, where they make knives. I think.
Yeah, that's
The Hunted or
yeah.
Hunted.
I
Something
think
like
it's just
that.
called Hunted.
Yeah, and that might have been the first time I saw it. I think they also do it in Winter Soldier.
Yes,
Bucky
Winter
and
Soldier does it
them.
a little bit differently, but yeah.
Yeah, essentially, your hand is like whatever, and you get the knife into the other hand, and you get him. Oh, it's great.
I just gotta play up to what the kids know.
Okay, which is the Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
The kids enjoy being disappointed end of set.
They do.
By things.
That's why we're talking about Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Perfect. But the fight culminates with him facing off against the head evil vampire Adam, and they do some legit ass Resident Evil Underworld style, but even better maybe, like kicking each other's feet and fighting and doing stuff, whatever. There's a few fights where they do like the time remapping, After Effects, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of a glutton for some of that. I'm enjoying me some of those scenes.
No, I agree. I liked a couple of things about that ending scene. I like that he did not know that the silver wasn't on the train. So like his head gets
Yes.
bashed through the thing and he starts to laugh because he's like, "That's rocks, bitch." I think.
Oh yeah.
I think that's great.
Like the triple cross.
Yes,
where like,
I think Speed not being a double crosser because I like that character.
Right.
I don't want anything bad to come from his name. I want him to be good. So I thought all that was pretty good. I think there's a funny thing here where you have Mackie went on to be in the Avengers where Captain America holds a helicopter. In this we have the dude who holds the fucking train in a similar way. I had a bunch of who did it better.
There's a bunch of AB who did it better. Yeah.
You know it.
I want to point out too that the Adam, the big bad vampire, is Rufus Sewell, whatever, the Dark City guy, and the guy from and the guy from A Knight's Tale, and the guy from everything.
Yeah.
It's
That
great.
probably stands out the most to me.
He's still doing stuff,
Of course.
and I like him.
He's still doing stuff 8 years ago. He's doing stuff now too, but it's
He
funny.
might be, but I'm just saying. So like I liked that dude and just barely knew him in earlier movies, and even by 2012. And he's an actor because he seems different in this.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize him at first. It came out of left field for me.
No, yeah, he is good in this movie.
Only the living can kill the dead. Welcome to the family.
There are a couple people that stand out. Like Maggie's whole character, I think, is kind of shit. Where like they give barely anything at all, but you see a kid get scarred in the face, and you're like, he's gonna come back. He's gonna be an adult with a scar on his face. That's a fact. That's how things work. One of my biggest questions is exactly when the vampires bite you, what happens?
We don't know.
Because his son dies and his mother dies in the same fashion when they get like the vampire sickness.
Yes.
They don't turn into vampires, but they do die.
So there's a line from Adam, from Dark Cityman, who says basically, her soul was pure, but yours, sorry, like sorry.
Her soul is pure. But yours, Henry?
Oh, like you're too pure to be turned?
Or like you just die unless you have enough evil in you to like become a vampire instead. I don't know. For a movie that's so fucking long, they leave out so many things that you could put in and do more time to. It almost seems like they should have picked one of those two movies, and by that I mean the first one,
all the way,
and just done more stuff
for
with
sure.
it. Yes, exactly.
That whole bridge on fire thing, I'm like, that's weird and
that's
goofy.
gross. Okay, so like that's the other side of the coin of the on top of the train, where now everything's red and it just sucks, and they're jumping from.
Why
thing
didn't they
to
just blow it
thing.
up? Why'd they let it on fire? Like they almost made it across.
Yes, I think parts of the train do, or no? Like,
I think once they get off, he lets it go and it falls. But I could be wrong.
Because it's like a set piece that like you would like envision it. There's a badass shot of that vampire concubine like lighting the stuff on fire and stuff. Like, oh, that's cool. But then like the train is like shedding cars, and Adam the vampire is like kicking the boards out. It's all goofy because it's like you're not there. There's nothing happening. It's all made of computers. There's nothing. There's nothing there.
It's just dumb.
Yeah, it just felt so weightless and like goofy and just like, ugh, come on, what are we doing?
How about the mom killing the vampire that killed her son by shooting his little toy dagger necklace thing into her fucking head?
Made of silver, bitch.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean by like the very disappointing in this. Mary Elizabeth Winstead also she's a sharpshooter and knows about and it can handle herself. Just like, Hercules'
I like
friend
her
is
though.
good. Yeah.
Not in this very much.
No, that's what I'm saying. I was super disappointed because once I saw that it was her, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh shit, maybe this movie is good. And then she has very little to do. She's not like playing it right, I feel like. I think they just said, oh, you have to play Mary Todd, your name's Mary, you get the part. And she was like, I don't want the part. And they were like, you have to do it now.
Ah, the laws of Mary.
They dragged her through, yeah.
Yeah, the movie itself, it's just too long to be like rated very highly. And it's two movies. And they chose to fuck up the first one to make that second part. Like, it is a strong popcorn idiot beginning that turns into just a muddled mess.
Absolutely. You can feel the movie collapsing under like its own weight or its own like inability to deal with all the stuff it's trying to shove into itself. And it just, by the end when it's like, we're late for the theater, I'm like, fuck you.
Time waits for no man.
We're gonna be late for the theater.
No. Go take me back an hour to when I was enjoying myself.
In the weeks that followed, Henry endeavored to impart a lifetime of vampire hunting secrets.
Is that Obama at the end?
What?
Who
the helicopter when they like do time. Time warp again?
Time warps again.
I don't
There's
know.
somebody else who's about to commit a murder. They're in a bar, they're drinking, they drop the thing, and they see the back of the head, and I assume it's another president because that's like their theme, and the only president that looked like was Obama to me.
Oh dear. I did not make that connection. I did not think anything that it was a president. I just took it.
I don't know that it's a president. I just assumed this guy has a trend and he only goes with world leaders.
They do because early on in the movie.
An Obama vampire hunter sounds amazing.
Early on in the movie, they do like a time thing where they can show the buildings disappearing and never going back in time. They did the same thing to go forward in time, and I think you're seeing like a monument. This time the Lincoln Memorial and a helicopter. But I didn't connect that at all with the button of like the vampire, knocking the gun out of someone else's things. I have no idea now that you bring that up what the fuck that was.
I liked seeing the Washington Monument get built. That's just like really cool. Where I'm like, wow, it's weird to think about those things being built because like they're just been there. I'm like, oh yeah, what year was that? Oh, 1818 or whatever the fuck it said.
They paused like halfway through and they had to get the stone from like a different quarry, and that's why part of it's a different color.
Facts. So like right outside that like apothecary guy's like place of business, aside from the fact that there's like a sun protection poster, which I think is the same thing that our vampire friend is putting on his face.
Yes.
There's a great scene where Abe gets knocked through a trap door and somehow ends up feet first in a noose and hanging.
Yeah.
And I was like, how did that work? What was holding the noose open? How? And I want to put it in slow motion to see if we could even understand how that worked.
I don't think it worked. I know you see the noose, you see the trap door, you see him fall, and then there's actually kind of a good shot of him upside down at first, right? It's an interesting looking shot. Yes, because there's other bodies there implying that like he just has a trapdoor that he repeatedly uses, I guess, in the same way.
Or he just hangs people down there in general, and that's the trapdoor itself.
I
I
guess.
just couldn't find myself caring because we've already established he's super strong. I was like, can he just break out of this?
Oh God, I forgot. Yeah, so when he cuts the rope with the knife that's in his teeth, he's obviously superpowered. Yes.
Kinda.
That's perfect. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me angry.
Oh, I love it so much.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. Let us know in the comments below what you thought about it. Don't die in a fire, and we'll see you next time.
If you want to support the show, head over to cannibalvideo.com, pick up some merch.
And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button.
That's all right.
Yeah, that's something.
Whatever.
Fuck these motherfuckers.
Again.